wake windows are failing you and your baby because they're not the magic sleep fix everyone swears by. You've been told to track those perfect awake times, put your little one down right on cue, and voila, they'll drift off peacefully. But instead, you're pacing the floor at 2 a.m., bleary-eyed with a fussy bundle who refuses to settle. Why? Because every baby is wired differently, and ignoring that truth is the biggest mistake you're making. Let's dive into why those rigid wake windows are messing with your sanity and how to finally get some rest. Ever stop to think why your baby fights naps like they're auditioning for a wrestling match? You've clocked their awake time down to the minute, followed the charts, but they're either wide-eyed and wired or a cranky mess way before the window says they should be. Here's the kicker. It's not just about hours awake. It's about something called sleep pressure. Picture a little cup inside your baby, filling up with sleepy juice every time they giggle, stare at the ceiling, or kick their tiny legs. The busier they are, the faster that cup fills. A long, deep nap empties it out, so they'll stay awake longer after. But a quick cat nap? That cup's still half full, and they'll crash sooner than any chart predicts. I've watched this play out with countless parents. Last week, a mom told me her 3-month-old was up for 4 hours after a solid 2-hour nap, while her friend's baby, same age, needed another snooze after just 90 minutes. Same age, totally different needs. That's sleep pressure at work, and it's why those one-size-fits-all wake windows can leave you stranded. Let's unpack this deeper, because understanding that invisible cup changes everything about how you approach your baby's rest. First, let's get real about baby sleep. It's not a cookie-cutter deal. Babies aren't robots. They don't all need the same shut-eye, even if they're born on the same day. The National Sleep Foundation says newborns from 0 to 3 months typically need 14 to 17 hours of sleep a day. Sounds straightforward, right? Except some are perfectly fine with just 12 hours, while others won't settle without 19. That's a staggering 7-hour gap. Imagine 2 babies, same age, side by side. One's ready to party after a short snooze, while the other's rubbing their eyes an hour earlier. If you force the party baby into a nap based on a generic wake window of, say, 2 hours, they'll just lie there, staring at you like, "Really, Mom?" They're not tired, so they resist. Or they fall asleep for a measly 20 minutes because their body didn't need it. Flip the script and picture a high sleep need baby pushed to stay awake for that same 2-hour window. They hit overtired territory fast. Think meltdowns, jerky arms flailing, and a cry that could wake the neighbors. By the time you get them down, they're so wired from exhaustion, they can't even sleep deeply. That's the chaos of ignoring individual needs. And it doesn't stop there. In the first 6 months, wake windows aren't even consistent day to day for the same baby. Why? Because what they did last nap, how long, how deep, plus what they're doing awake, like chowing down or batting at a rattle, shifts how fast that sleep pressure builds. A baby who just napped for 45 minutes might be drowsy again in an hour if they're overstimulated by a noisy play session. But after a 2-hour recharge, they might cruise for 3 hours, happily cooing at you. I remember one dad describing his 4-month-old after a short nap. She was yawning during a diaper change, barely an hour awake, while after a long nap, she'd be alert through a whole storybook session. Same baby, different day, different needs. Beyond sleep pressure, there's another layer. Your baby's trying to talk to you through their body. Tiredness signs are your cheat sheet, and they come in stages. Early cues are subtle. Glazed eyes, staring into space like they're solving life's mysteries, or slow blinks as if their eyelids weigh a ton. Miss those, and you get late signs: yawning, frowning, rubbing ears, or sucking fingers like it's their job. Ignore those, and you're in for the big guns. Full-on crying, the universal baby SOS. Then there's their natural rhythm, especially under 6 months. It's not a strict schedule, but a loose cycle. Wake, feed, maybe a little play if they're not wiped, then sleep. In those first weeks, play might just mean a bleary-eyed stare before they doze off mid-feed. But as weeks turn to months, they stretch those awake moments, staying up longer after a bottle to gurgle at you or swat at a toy. I've seen this pattern shift with a friend's newborn. First month, he was out cold after every feed, barely awake 30 minutes. By month 3, he'd babble for an hour post-feed before his eyes got heavy. Put it all together. Wake windows as a rough guide, tiredness cues as real-time feedback, and their evolving pattern as a roadmap, and you've got a clearer picture of when your baby's ready to rest. Without this trio, you're just guessing, and guessing leads to tears, yours and theirs. This isn't just theory. It's the difference between a peaceful nap and a midnight meltdown. So let's build on this and figure out why, even with the right timing, sleep can still feel like a battle. Now, here's a twist that might make you rethink everything. Even if you nail the timing, sleep struggles don't magically vanish. Why? Because wake windows, cues, and patterns are just the starting point. There's a whole mess of other hurdles in those first 6 months. Think about the nights you've spent shushing and rocking for hours, only for your baby to pop awake 30 minutes later, bright-eyed like it's morning. Or those endless night wakings where nothing, not a lullaby, not a pacifier, gets them back down. Maybe your little one flat out refuses to sleep anywhere but on your chest, turning you into a human mattress. And don't get me started on sudden fussiness, where they're inconsolable for reasons you can't crack. I've been there with parents who've tried every trick in the book. One mom shared how her 2-month-old would only settle if she walked laps around the living room, humming the same tune on repeat, arms aching from the weight. By the 3rd week of this, she was beyond exhausted, questioning if she was doing everything wrong. Here's the hard truth. The first 6 months are a shock to the system, no matter how prepared you think you are. But they don't have to be a total blur of sleep deprivation. There are ways to cut down on night wakings, to ease settling when it feels impossible, to stretch those cat naps into real rest, and to handle early morning wake-ups that have you up at 5 a.m., staring into a coffee cup. The catch? It's not just about timing. It's about reading every signal your baby throws at you, from a tiny yawn to a full-blown wail, and adjusting on the fly. I recall another parent describing how they missed early tired signs for weeks, thinking their baby's blank stares were just cute zoning out. Turns out that was the signal to start winding down, and missing it meant overtired chaos every evening. Once they tuned in, bedtime battles dropped by half. That's the power of going beyond wake windows, seeing the whole picture, not just the clock. So, let's push this further and zero in on how to make this work for you, even on the toughest days. Let's hit the heart of it. Mastering your baby's sleep isn't about following a rigid rule book. It's about becoming a detective of their unique needs. And I've got the tools to prove it. Start with wake windows as your baseline, but don't worship them. A 3-month-old's ideal window might be 2 hours. But if your baby's got low sleep needs, they could stretch to 3, babbling happily while you're frantically checking the time. High sleep needs? They're rubbing their eyes at 90 minutes, and pushing them further risks a meltdown. I've watched this exact mismatch unfold. A dad insisted on a strict 2-hour window because the app said so, ignoring his daughter's early yawns at 1.5 hours. Result? A 45-minute scream fest before she finally crashed, overtired and overdone. Adjusting to her cues cut that drama down to a 10-minute wind down. That's step 1. Use the window as a guide, not gospel. Step 2 is mastering those tiredness signs, and I mean really seeing them. Early cues are sneaky, unfocused eyes like they're staring through you, or a sudden disinterest in their favorite rattle. Catch these, and you've got a golden window to start soothing before things escalate. Miss them, and late cues kick in. Jerky movements, ear tugging, or yawning so wide you can see their tiny tonsils. I've sat with a mom who didn't realize her son's ear rubbing was a tired signal. She thought it was just a quirk. Once she connected the dots, she'd dim the lights and hum softly the second it started, and he'd be out in minutes. Ignore even those late signs, and crying takes over. Now you're playing catch-up with a baby too wired to settle easily. Step 3 ties it all together. Know their natural flow. Under 6 months, it's not a set schedule, but a repeating loop. Wake, feed, play if they've got energy, sleep. Early on, play might just be a dazed look during a burp before they're snoring again. By 4 months, they might stay up post-feed to kick at a mobile for 20 minutes. Track this pattern over a week, and you'll spot trends. One parent I guided noticed her 5-month-old always got fussy 30 minutes after a feed if playtime was too stimulating. Too many bright toys, too much noise. Dialing it back to quiet cuddles shifted that fuss to a calm nap transition. Now layer these 3. Wake window as a rough timer, cues as your live update, pattern as your big picture map, and you've got a system. But let's talk real results. I've walked a family through this exact approach. Their 4-month-old was a cat nap king. 30 minutes max, leaving them wrecked. We started watching for early tired signs. Slow blinks were his tell. Adjusted wake times based on nap length. Shorter after cat naps, longer after rare long ones. And respected his wake feed play. Sleep rhythm. Within 2 weeks, naps stretched to an hour. Night wakings dropped from 5 to 2, and they got their first 4-hour sleep stretch in months. Was it perfect? No. Some days, overtiredness still snuck in. But they had a framework to troubleshoot, not just blind panic. And here's the deeper proof. Sleep pressure science backs this up. It's not just a cute sleepy cup idea, it's biology. When your baby's awake, their brain builds adenosine, a chemical that drives sleepiness. Activity ramps it up. Rest clears it out. A 2019 study in Sleep Medicine Reviews confirmed that nap duration directly impacts next wake length in infants. Short naps mean faster adenosine buildup. Long naps slow it down. That's why your baby's last nap matters as much as their age. Add to that their unique sleep need, 12 to 19 hours. Remember? And forcing a universal wake window is like fitting a square peg in a round hole. I've seen this mismatch break parents' spirits, like a couple who swore their 2-month-old hated sleep because she fought every nap at the right window. Turns out, she needed more rest than average, hitting tired signs 30 minutes early. Honoring that, they went from daily battles to predictable naps. And the mom's tearful relief over a quiet evening said it all. This isn't just about sleep. It's about reclaiming your peace. So let's wrap this with a moment that'll stick with you. A reminder of why tuning in is worth every ounce of effort. Picture this. It's 3 a.m. You're slumped in a rocking chair. Baby finally asleep on your shoulder after an hour of shushing. And you're too scared to move an inch. lest they wake. We've all had those nights where you're half laughing, half crying at the absurdity. How did a tiny human turn you into a sleep-deprived zombie? I remember a night like that with a little one I was helping with. The parents were at their wits' end, convinced their 3-month-old would never sleep longer than 20 minutes. We'd been working on cues all week, spotting those glazed eyes, catching the first yawn. And that night, they nailed it. Dimmed lights, soft hum, down at the first sign of tired. Baby slept an hour. An hour. When I checked in, the dad's voice cracked as he whispered, "I forgot what silence feels like." It was funny in that bleary, exhausted way, him acting like an hour was a vacation. But it was also a gut punch. That tiny win, that sliver of rest, reminded them they weren't failing. It's not always the big victories that hit hardest. Sometimes it's the quiet moment when you realize you figured out just a piece of the puzzle. That's what keeps you going through the chaos of those first months. Knowing that every yawn you catch, every pattern you spot, is a step toward less screaming and more snoring. It's messy, it's imperfect, but it's progress. And progress, even if it's just an extra 30 minutes of shut-eye, feels like a superpower when you're running on fumes. Those little breakthroughs, they're your reminder that you've got this, even when it feels like you don't. Let's tie this all together and get you on that path. So, here's the bottom line. Wake windows aren't the holy grail of baby sleep. They're just one tool in your kit. Your real power comes from blending them with your baby's unique tiredness cues and natural rhythms. Stop chasing a perfect clock. Start watching for those slow blinks, those quiet moments after a feed, that subtle shift from playful to poop. Every baby's different. Some need 12 hours, some 19, and every day's different, based on their last nap or how much they've played. Tune into that, and you'll cut through the chaos of overtired meltdowns and endless night wakings. You've got the map now. Use it to find your peace and theirs. If you found this helpful and want more real talk to survive the newborn trenches, hit that like button and subscribe. It's the boost I need to keep sharing these insights with you. And hey, since videos like this can sometimes disappear, don't wait. Join the crew now. Oh, and I'm curious, what's the funniest or weirdest tired sign your baby shows when they're ready to crash? Drop it in the comments. I'd love to hear.